What does the general public need to know about herbal medicine that they do not?
The general public is very confused about herbal medicine. When I started 52 years ago, it was during the hippie times, and people were very experimental and they were willing to try just about anything. And they actually were quite serious about these ideas and really dug into it. Today, the vast majority of people who are looking for help with herbal medicine tend to be older. So, in the baby boomer dynamic, they've been taking care of themselves with conventional medicine for their entire adult life. Now that's failing them, and they want to use herbal medicine, but they have a generally positive outlook for it, but they don't know anything about how to use it, what it's for, various preparations, doses, and they're used to medical doses. If you see a pill of, let's say, someone's blood pressure medicine, it's the size of a lentil, and they take one a day, and that's what they're used to, and that's what they think it's going to be. They don't realize they're going to slug down a big bowl of herbal mud or whatever. So what they need to know is that herbal medicine is dynamic, dramatic, and effective. It actually really delivers. It works very, very well, but you have to do it in the proper way. Dose is the biggest problem with our modern clientele, but then all these various preparations. So people need to understand that there are advantages and disadvantages to various preparations, and they need to do the arithmetic. The information about herbal medicine, even frankly in books, not books by the people that you interview, but the general public are reading, and then the internet, it's just full of nonsense. And doses and preparations are not taken seriously, and people don't convert one to the other. They don't know the arithmetic, they don't do the arithmetic, or they assume it doesn't matter. So they're trying to someone suggests an herb in capsule form, and they try to take that in tincture form because they think that would be a good idea. Maybe that herb doesn't work as a tincture. They don't understand the dose conversions. So somehow people have to be educated about that, and that's up to professionals like us to train them. People have to realize, though, that this is not a hobby. It's a serious medical practice, and if we're looking to get actual good results with people, which we can, they have to treat it seriously and take it as seriously as their conventional medicine.
Would you say it's one of your missions of your work to kind of promote this idea that this is actually a serious topic, clinical herbalism, and it's not just some sort of like hippy dippy mode of healthcare?
Well, very much so. And it's interesting that you mentioned hippy dippy because in the hippie era,
Yeah.
people were much more serious about it. There were very few people who were interested in it. It was a tiny fraction of people who I could, influence, but I was able to carve a career out of that small group. And those people have been my clients ever since for, 50 years. They started out there 20, now they're 70. But the general public doesn't understand the connection. So we have a whole bunch of ideas about herbal medicine in our culture that are cause cognitive dissonance. It's super powerful and can hurt and poison you, and yet it's not powerful enough to do anything. You have to wait a long time to get results, but you only have to take a tiny bit, 3 drops of tincture, or one capsule, like it says on the jar. It's just chaos. So I think people would like to take it seriously, but they just don't know what kind of information. Every company says on their jar to take 1 capsule a day. That's just ludicrous. And that's because of their fear of liability, not
Right.
because they actually think you're going to get results. So commercial manufacturers, by and large, are more concerned that you don't have a negative reaction than that you don't have a good reaction.
I was actually going to bring that up as I was mentioning to pre-call. I was listening to your interview with Rosalie De La Forêt on her awesome podcast, Herbs with Rosalie, and you said something to the effect, which is what you just said here. Herbalism can be viewed as both powerful and dangerous, but also mild and effective. And it just really rang true for me when you said that. And sometimes, I'm now living in Wisconsin, where there's definitely herbalism out here, but it's not nearly as saturated, I want to say, as like say the Eugene, Oregon area, which is where I'm from originally. How would you go about explaining, or like giving me advice to explain to your normies what herbalism is? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, you have to seek out sources of information, whether that's websites, books, podcasts, whatever it is, from people who are authoritative. But it's very hard to figure out who those people are. A medical doctor might call herself an herbalist, and she took a weekend seminar.
Mhm.
Naturopathic physicians. I teach in 2 naturopathic universities, and I treat those doctors. I teach in the botanical medicine department, and train them. But frankly, they're so overwhelmed by the 17 modalities that they're learning that very few of them concentrate enough on herbal medicine to actually make it work. They could, but it's not the usual situation. So most naturopathic physicians have to learn herbal medicine either concurrently, or they knew it before, or they focus on it afterward. But it's not going to be the main focus of their schooling. So just because someone calls themselves a natural doctor doesn't mean that they know very much about herbalism or can use it effectively. So we want to look at professional resources. So you mentioned the American Herbalist Guild, of which I was president recently. If we go to that website, you'll see some names that come up over and over. They have a list of recommended herb books on their website. Otherwise, the kinds of people who are being interviewed, the kinds of you read reviews of people's books and their work, and the same names for authoritative people, the same 20 names are just going to come up over and over. Those are the people you want to listen to. Blogs just repost over and over the same nonsense, and it's people that don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know whether what they're posting is nonsense or not, so they just keep repeating it, and we're just in this echo chamber now of nonsensical information going back and forth. So we can't do that. Anything is going to be better than that.